Well, hello, baseball fans. How you doing? So we continue on with the positional rankings, and now we move on to second base. Let's get to it. Let's start this off with a World Series champion, Ozzie Albies, one of the best, point blank. Ozzie Albies with another good season last year. Over 156 games, hit 259, 30 homers, a 488 slugging, an overall 4.2 wins above replacement on Fangraphs. Not a big fan of the on-base percentage last year, 310, but he kept the strikeouts down. I just want to see him walk a little bit more. 6.9% is a little low for me, but overall, this guy, he's hitting home runs, he's driving in runs, he's playing some good defense out there, just winning a World Series. Easy S tier for me. Speaking of World Series, let's talk about the other second baseman that was in the World Series last year, Jose Altuve. I know everyone, they're already gritting their teeth at this one, but hey, Jose Altuve, a fantastic season last year. Hit 278, 31 homers, a 350 on base, a 489 slugging, a 130 WRC plus. I mean, that is just ridiculous. If we look at the leaderboards last year for second baseman, Jose Altuve was right near the top in terms of wins above replacement, only behind Marcus Semien and Brandon Lau. Trey Turner is also here as well, but we're not looking at him. But Jose Altuve, just fantastic. If you take a look actually at 2020, he had a really down, shortened season that year. And if you go back to 2019, the numbers still looked pretty good, but he was missing some time. He was going through some injuries. Also was missing some time in 2018 as well. But Jose Altuve really had himself a bounce-back season, his best wins above replacement since 2017. What else is there to say? He's an S tier for me. He's just very good. What else is there to say? S tier. On to Cavan Biggio of the Blue Jays. Cavan Biggio had himself a bit of a downer last year. Only hit 224, 322 on base, 7 homers. Was playing through some injuries there. Only 79 games last year, an 84 WRC plus. I mean, he's going to have to really pick up the pace here going into 2022. There was a lot of promise with him in 2019. Very good on base percentage of 364. Even over a shortened season, a 375 on base. I mean, Cavan Biggio was looking really solid there for the first couple of years, but really took a step back last year. I still think they're going to give him a good chance to produce at second base, but if it comes down to it, they do have Santiago Espinal, who was looking like a pretty decent third base option before they got Matt Chapman. So we're going to have to wait and see how it plays out with those two. I think if Biggio struggles, we could see more of Espinal, but I think they want to give Biggio a chance. He's really shown a lot of promise in the past few years. So we're going to have to wait and see what ends up happening with him. For right now, Cavan Biggio, with that step back, I'm going to have to go D for Cavan Biggio right now. But if he can take a step forward this year, I definitely think he could be C, B. Who knows? Maybe he can get up to an A. But for now, I'm going to go D. Jazz Chisholm was a fun player last year. He did deal with some injuries, only played 124 games total. But in those games, man, he was looking really electric, and I think he's going to be a fun player. Hit 248 in his rookie season, 303 on base. Those two could definitely come up, but the slugging was okay at 425. He had 18 home runs. WRC plus under 100. I would like to see that come up, but one good thing about Jazz Chisholm, he's going to bring you a lot of speed, 23 stolen bases. Another nitpick is the defense. I think that defense has to come up a bit. But there's a lot of promise with Jazz Chisholm. He's going to be a fun player. I definitely think the fielding can get better. Fangraphs had him at a 55 field, and to see a negative 3.0 defense. I just think that will get better over time, but you're getting some power, you're getting some speed. I don't know, maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but I'm going to go B. I just think there's a lot of potential with Jazz Chisholm. Also, if you take a look at the projections, they're looking next year a little bit more at the home runs, kind of around the same, with a little lower on the average, a little around the same on the on base. I think these numbers end up going up. I think he's going to be really good. So for now, I'm going to go B. Man, Jake Cronenworth was really good last year. Look at these numbers from him. Hit 266, a 340 on base, a 460 slugging, 21 home runs, a 4.4 wins above replacement total. Played some solid defense out there, 7.4 defensive runs above average. But the beauty of Cronenworth was that he not just played second base, but he played some shortstop as well. He even played some first base last year. So Cronenworth, lots of versatility with him. Really liked the steps that he took last year, really rounding into just a very good all-around player. Jay Cronenworth, I don't think I'm quite there at an S just yet, but I'm going to go A. I would love for him to even go further this year in 2022. He's going to be very important for that Padres lineup. The newest Angels second baseman, Matt Duffy. I feel like Matt Duffy is a bit underrated. I've liked some of the numbers that Matt Duffy's put up over the years. With the Cubs last year, 97 games, hit 287 to 357 on base. You know, just not a big fan of the slugging. He's not really going to be too much of a power guy, more of a contact and on-base kind of a guy, but that's not a problem to me. With the defense, you know, pretty solid. 4.6 defense last year. That's better than some of these guys on this list. You know, with Matt Duffy, I think he's just pretty solid. I definitely would like for him to, you know, play more games. He hasn't really played, he had 132 games in 2018, but that's the most that he's played since 2015. You'd like for this guy to try and get into some more games. Hopefully a closer to a full season this year for Matt Duffy. For right now, I'm just going to go C for Matt Duffy. He's going to give you some contact. He'll get on base for you, but definitely want the slugging to come up a little bit if it can, and hey, maybe play a few more games. Tommy Edman of the St. Louis Cardinals had himself a pretty decent season last year. I mean, nothing really too exciting with his slash line, 262, a 308 on base, 387 slugging. You know, not a whole lot going on there, but the one thing with him, he's going to give you some speed, man. 30 stolen bases, and he is a very versatile player. Played mostly second base last year, but he also played some right field. He can play some short. So Edman is definitely going to give you some value versatility-wise. I do think he is just a solid player. He had a 350 on base over 92 games in 2019. I would like for him to get back to more of those numbers if he can. You know, get that WRC plus up a little bit. You know, with Edman, I think he's a pretty decent player. The versatility is always something you're going to love. I'll go C for Tommy Edman. The newest second baseman for the Seattle Mariners, Adam Frazier. Man, he had himself a good season last year, mostly with the Pirates. When he went over to the Padres, it kind of cooled off a little bit with Adam Frazier, but overall, a good season last year. He hit 305, not really a lot with the home runs, but he had a 368 on base, a 411 slugging, he had a 114 WRC plus, played some pretty decent defense for the most part. He gave you some stolen bases. I like Adam Frazier. I've always liked his game. You know, I just like that he gets on base at a solid rate. You know, gives you a batting average, you know, anywhere from, you know, 280, 275, somewhere in that range. But last year hitting 305, so that's a career high for him. But I feel like when you take a look at the numbers that he had with the Padres, you know, hit 267 with the Padres, 324 with the Pirates. I think, you know, 280 average for an Adam Frazier is a good in-between, 340, 350 on base. I like those numbers for him, but hey, if you can get back to those Pittsburgh Pirate numbers, I mean, good grief, we got yourself a fantastic player here. For Adam Frazier, again, I like the season that he had last year. I think he's a solid B. I think he's going to be a good player for the Mariners. He is really going to contribute a lot. I'll go B for Adam Frazier. Let's go to Cleveland and talk about Andres Gimenez. Did spend some time in the minor leagues last year. 52 games in AAA, 68 games at the major leagues. Not a whole lot in the major leagues last year. Hit 218, 282 on base, a 351 slugging. In AAA, he was better. Hit 287 there, 342 on base, over a 500 slugging, 10 homers there. With Andres Gimenez, you're going to get a very good glove. That's one thing. I'm a sucker for defense, and I like that about Andres Gimenez. The projections for next year are pretty friendly for him. They have him hitting 250 with a 304 on base, over a 400 slugging. You know, 16 home runs. I mean, those are not barn burner kind of numbers, but, you know, for a guy that's going to give you a very good glove at second base, I think those are decent numbers overall. I think for right now with the Gimenez, I think you have to go D. There's definitely potential there, but he needs to start showing it at the major league level. Moving on to Chicago and talking about the newest second baseman for the White Sox, Josh Harrison. Had himself a pretty decent season last year. 138 games, hit 279, a 341 on base, 400 slugging, a 103 WRC plus. You know, not barn burner type of numbers, but this guy also brings a lot of versatility. Mostly second base last year, but he played third, left, center, right. I would love to have a Josh Harrison on my team. Overall, a 1.5 wins above replacement. The glove could definitely come up a little bit. Yes, he can play multiple positions, but you would like the defense to be a little bit better. And actually, if we take a look at the fielding, what the heck did I just do here? Wow, I didn't even know Fangraphs could do this. Wow, look at this. Light. dark and classic. I'll stick with the light for now. But going to the fielding here, if we take a look at the advanced numbers, at second base last year, over about 800 innings, 0 defensive runs saved. He was in the negatives with the UZR. So, he's going to get the job done for the most part at second base. So, I think he's going to be a solid player. He's going to give the White Sox, a guy that he's going to give you some contact. He's going to get on base for you. I like that for the White Sox. So, overall, I think Josh Harrison is pretty solid. I don't think he is one of the better second basemen out there, but I'll go C for Josh Harrison. What kind of holds him back is the glove a little bit. I would also like a little bit more power, a little bit more slugging, but a C for Josh Harrison. On to the Nationals' newest second baseman, Cesar Hernandez. Cesar Hernandez, an interesting season last year. Only hit .232, a 308 on base, 386 slugging. So those are not barn burner type of numbers, but he had 21 home runs. So that's pretty solid for the most part. I'd just like for him to do more with the bat. But with Cesar Hernandez, he did have a 7.0 defense, but if we look at the fielding last year a little more closely, negative 11 defensive runs saved, so that's definitely got to come up. In 2020, he had 6, but with the UZR, it was pretty solid last year, 5.7, so that just tells me, maybe the range needs to get a little bit better. He needs to be able to make more of those run-saving kind of plays. But when it comes to the routine plays, getting the for sure out, Cesar Hernandez is going to be really solid out there. So there were some good things with Cesar Hernandez last year, but there were also some downers. I'll kind of go in the middle with a Cesar Hernandez. I'll go C. I do like the power that came about last year with him. I like the ability to make the routine play, but I want to see him get a little bit better out there at second base when it comes to saving some runs. So overall, I'll go C. Let's talk about the 2021 National League Rookie of the Year, Jonathan India. Very good season last year. Hit .269, 376 on base. I'm a sucker for a young player that can get on base. I love that. 459 slugging, 21 homers, a 122 WRC plus, a 3.9 Fangraph WAR. Just a very solid season. For the projections for next year, kind of around the same, a little lower with the batting average, a little lower with the on base, a little lower with the slugging. So they see his numbers dipping just a little bit. But I think with India, man, he was an electric player last year. He has a future 60 hit tool, 50 with the power, 50 with the raw power, 45 with the game power. I think India is just a really solid player. I think he's going to be a big part. If the Reds are going to try and shock some people this year, India really needs to keep up with these numbers and maybe even do better, especially with Nick Castellanos heading to Philly. So India, man, I really like him a lot. I'm going to go A for Jonathan India, especially after winning Rookie of the Year. What else is there to say? A tier for Jonathan India. On to Tony Kemp on the Oakland A's. He had himself a rather good year last year. He was a fun player. Take a look at the numbers. Hit .279, a 382 on base, a 418 slugging, a 127 WRC plus. I mean, these are really solid numbers. Yeah, sure, maybe the home runs are a little low. Maybe the slugging's a little low. But wow, WRC plus on base, pretty decent average. I mean, come on, Tony Kemp. What the heck is going on here? In 2020, he started showing signs. Well, actually, no, if you go back to 2018, he showed signs of being a good on-base guy then with a 351. Then it was a 363 in 2020. Then it was up to a 382. The only thing with Tony Kemp, it's just the fielding. If we take a look last year at second base, he played, how many games did he play? No, that's not the advanced. He played 520 innings at second base last year. No defensive runs saved. He was negative in the UZR. With left field, he was pretty good out there. If you take a look, 2 defensive runs saved there. But yeah, he kind of just played all over last year. With Tony Kemp, I just really want to see another full season with these kind of on-base numbers. I will stick with a C for right now. I mean, C plus at least. For me, I don't think he's quite at a B just yet. I just want to see one more full season with those kind of numbers, and absolutely I will be willing to go to a B. But for right now, I'm going to stick with a C. On to San Francisco to talk about Tommy La Stella. Hey, bummer of a year last year. Was hurt a lot. Only played 76 games. Hit 250, 308, 405 slugging over those games. Not really too much going on. With Tommy La Stella, he's never really played a lot in a season. The most he's played is 123 games back in 2018. In the games that he's played in the past, he's had some pretty solid numbers. If you go back to 2020, shortened season, 55 games, hit 281, had a 370 on base, a 449 slugging. If you go back even to 2019, he had a 486 slugging with the Angels that year, hit 295, but it was only half a season, 80 games overall. He had 16 home runs though. So Tommy La Stella, there is a good player. It just, you got to play more. That's the only thing with him. Never really anything too flashy with the defense. He's always been a pretty versatile player. If you go take a look in his career, he's played second, he's played third, he's played a little bit of first as well. So he can play all over the infield besides shortstop. So he definitely adds some versatility. But with La Stella, he just hasn't really shown the ability to stay healthy, to play a lot of games. I think the numbers are there. Just let's get a full season out of this guy. For right now, I got to stick with a C for Tommy La Stella. If you can put up those numbers and just play some more games, I mean, this guy is absolutely a B, maybe even an A, but I got to stay C for now. Let's go to Kansas City to talk about one of my favorite players from last year, Nicky Lopez. Man, he was really good last year. Played mostly shortstop last year, moving over to second. But with Nicky Lopez, he is a prime example that you don't need to hit a lot of home runs to be a fun player. This guy hit 300 last year, had a 365 on base, a 106 WRC plus. He played some awesome defense, an 11.7 defense last year. He brought some speed. I mean, Nicky Lopez, man. Again, he's not going to hit for a lot of power. Going to be more of a contact on base guy. It was a breakout year for Nicky Lopez. First two seasons were kind of whatever. But man, he showed a lot of promise last year. Good speed, good in the field, good contact, good on base numbers. I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of on a high for Nicky Lopez right now. But man, I'm going to go A for Nicky Lopez. I mean, I know that might be jumping the gun a little bit. Some of you might say probably B. I'm going to probably imagine a lot of people watching thinking, nah, he's more of a B. But I don't know. I just really liked what he did last year. I'm sold. I'm going to go A for Nicky Lopez. On to one of the best second basemen from last year, Brandon Lowe. Man, he had himself a good season last year. Take a look at these numbers. 247 average, 340 on base, a 523 slugging, 39 home runs. Are you kidding me? Only behind Marcus Semien last year in home runs, and in overall wins above replacement, he ranked third behind Turner and Semien. But Turner, hey, now a shortstop, so I guess you could say Brandon Lowe was number 2. But Brandon Lowe, man, I really like what he brings to the table offensively. He is just so solid. Just missed 100 RBIs last year, a 137 WRC plus. It was in the negatives with his defense, but for the most part, he'll get the job done out there. Brandon Lowe, you got to put him in an S tier with those kind of numbers offensively. Where else would you put Brandon Lowe? Let's talk about Nicky Two Strikes, Nick Madrigal. Man, I love me some Nick Madrigal, man. Ended up getting traded to the Cubs last year. Ended up having a pretty bad hamstring injury last year. But man, Nick Madrigal, when this guy is back to playing full time, I am just so excited, man. He is kind of like what I was talking about with Nicky Lopez. You don't got to hit home runs to be a fun player. He is a prime example. In 54 games last year, he hit 305, a 349 on base, a 113 WRC plus, 425 slugging. This guy is going to be a contact machine for years to come. Only 25 years old. He's got a future hit tool of 70. They have him at a 60 right now. In the minors, this guy was just insane. A 398 on base in AAA in 2019. Man, I mean, what else is there to say? In 2020, he played 29 games that year. He was awesome. He hit 340 in 2020, 376 on base. I love Nick Madrigal. He's going to do enough defense out there to get it done. I like him a lot. For right now, I think with Madrigal, he hasn't played too much in the major leagues, had the injury. With Madrigal, I'm going to go a B, though. Maybe I'm jumping the gun. I tend to do that sometimes. But Nick Madrigal, man, I just like what he brings to the table. I think he is going to be really solid when he's fully healthy and ready to go. I'm going to go B for Nick Madrigal. On to one of the most electric players in the game when healthy, Ketel Marte. Another season last year with injuries, only played 90 games overall, but man, this guy, if he can just stay on the field, he would just be elite. If you go back to 2019, man, he was so good in 2019. Holy cow. That year was incredible. Had a 7 wins above replacement, hit 329, a 389 on base, a 592 slugging, 32 homers, 92 RBIs, played good defense. Are you kidding me? 2020, he was dealing with some injuries, but good numbers. 2021, you know, man, 90 games, but still in the 90 games, he did really well. Hit 318, a 377 on base, a 532 slugging, 14 home runs. What else is there to say? Ketel Marte, he's a very, very, very good player. He just needs to stay on the field. I am going to go S tier for Ketel Marte. I think he is one of the best players when healthy in the game. I mean, maybe I'm jumping the gun there too, but I really like Ketel Marte. I was tempted to put him at an A just because of just the health in the last couple of years, but I think you got to stick with an S tier for Marte. I really like his game. There were rumors this past offseason that maybe Jeff McNeil could get traded, but sticking with the Mets, Jeff McNeil, you know, not a great season last year. Had a downer of a year, 120 games. He was going through some injuries, got benched at one point. Hit 251, a 319 on base, 360 slugging, 93 WRC plus, only 7 home runs. But Jeff McNeil, he has shown that he is a good player. If we take a look at the last 3 seasons before 2021, from 2018 to 2020, had over a 300 average, had over a 380 on base, had a 531 slugging in 2019. He's a solid player. Just last year, he just was going through a funk. I think with Jeff McNeil, I think he will have a better year this year, and the projections agree as well. They have him hitting 281, 14 homers, a 346 on base, a 430 slugging. I definitely think McNeil is going to get back on track. For McNeil, if I was doing this based off of his old numbers, I would go A. But because of the downer, I will drop him down to a B. But he could easily get back up to here. Hey, maybe even take it a step further. Maybe get up to an S. But I think B for right now is a good spot for McNeil. On to the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I have Kevin Newman here. It was looking like Kevin Newman would be the second baseman. Maybe O'Neal Cruz would be the shortstop, but O'Neal Cruz getting sent back down to AAA. So now it looks like Kevin Newman is going to play shortstop as of right now, with Diego Castillo playing second. But you know what? I'm just going to have Kevin Newman here. He's just going to represent whoever would play second base for the Pirates. Whoever you go with, Castillo or Newman, I mean, you're not really getting a whole lot. If we take a look at Newman's numbers from last year, only hit 226, a 265 on base, a 309 slugging. I mean, those are just pretty terrible numbers. With Diego Castillo, I mean, he's, was playing in AAA last year. I mean, he's projected for not really great numbers on his end either. He's hit okay in the minor leagues. His on-base numbers have been pretty decent in the minors, but overall, the Pirates, I know it's Kevin Newman here, but just the Pirates, whoever plays second base, I think just right now, you got to go F. I mean, this is not a whole lot there. We'll have to wait and see. I'm waiting for Nick Gonzalez in Pittsburgh. Hopefully that guy can come up this year. On to Rougned Odor with the Baltimore Orioles. There's just not a whole lot here. Only hit 202 last year, a 286 on base, 379 slugging. He did have 15 home runs for the Yankees. I guess that's okay, but there's just not a whole lot here. He'll play some okay defense out there, nothing crazy. But with Odor, I'm going to go F. He's just not really bringing a lot to the table. Now, a guy that is bringing a lot to the table, Jorge Polanco on the Twins. It was looking like he was going to be the shortstop, and then, out of nowhere, they got Carlos Correa. So Jorge Polanco is now going to be the second baseman. And hey, that's not a bad thing at all. 33 home runs last year, hit 269, a 323 on base, 503 slugging, almost a 4 wins above replacement. It was in the negatives with his defense, but overall, he's going to be fine out there, especially moving over from short to second. I think that'll be good for him. But Polanco, man, this guy, he's just going to bring you a good amount of offense, good amount of home runs, good amount of RBIs. He'll bring you a little bit of speed, too, 11 stolen bases last year. I think Polanco... overall, right now, I think I am just going to stick with an A. I don't think he is quite an S tier. He's definitely bringing a good amount of power. I would like to see the on-base numbers come up a little bit. They have been down from what they were from 2018 to 2019. I would like to see the defense improve a little bit. For now, I think an A tier is a good spot for him. On to a guy who I think is going to have himself a pretty good season next year, Brendan Rodgers. He actually put up some decent numbers last year. It took him a little while to kind of get going. You know, only played 25 games in 2019. He got hurt. Only played 7 games in 2020, but broke the 100-game barrier in 2021. Pretty decent numbers overall. Hit 284, a 328 on base, 470 slugging, a 100 WRC plus, 15 home runs. Defensively, he was solid out there. He has good projections for next year. They have him hitting a few more home runs, around 280 with the batting average again, a little higher on the slugging. I definitely think the on-base numbers will come up a little bit. I think the slugging could absolutely improve, especially being in Coors Field. And if we're taking a look here, there are some blues here, but I do like that he really got into one. Max exit velocity shows he was in the top 20%. So I definitely think, you know, just a little more fine-tuning with the bat, getting a little more used to major league pitching. I think we're going to see more out of Brendan Rodgers. I also like that he doesn't strike out a whole ton. He doesn't swing and miss a whole ton. He's definitely going to walk a bit more. But I think Brendan Rodgers, I think he's going to be really solid. Kind of like Jazz Chisholm here. There's a lot of potential, I think. I'm going to put him at a B. With Chisholm and Rodgers, I'm putting them in the Bs more for potential. I definitely like their games. Hey, these two guys can definitely improve, and that's why I have him in the B. On to Jonathan Schoop with the Detroit Tigers. Hey, this guy, he's going to bring you some solid offense out there. Last year, hit 278, a 320 on base, 435 slugging, 22 home runs, a 105 WRC plus. The only problem with Schoop last year was the defense, but he played mostly first base last year, so he's going to be going back to his normal home at second base. So I definitely think the defensive numbers will improve. With Jonathan Schoop, I think he's just a pretty solid player. He's just going to be a nice bat near the middle of the order. Hey, he's going to give you home runs. He's going to drive in runs. He had 84 RBIs last year. I'm going to go B for Jonathan Schoop. I really like him. Just solid player. I'll go B. On to Philly to talk about Jean Segura. Jean Segura, I think, is really solid. Look at these numbers. 290 with the batting average, a 348 on base, 436 slugging, 14 homers. You know, I think he's just going to be a nice, solid bat. I definitely don't think he was the top of the order bat that they really needed. I'm glad that the Phillies brought in Castellanos and Schwarber, those two guys. While Segura is a good on-base guy shown by the 348 on base, those two guys are just on a different level because they can bring some more power to the game. They can bring some more slugging percentage to the game, which that's where Segura is a little low here, 436 on the slugging. But it's not bad by any means. With Segura, he's going to bring you good enough defense out there, 0.5 defense last year. I think he's just a solid guy to have on your team. I think he's a very good second baseman. I'll go kind of in the middle. I'll go with a B for Jean Segura. I definitely think there is an argument maybe for an A. Let me know what you think down below in the comments, but I'll go B for Segura for now. On to the Rangers' newest second baseman, Marcus Semien. I'm not going to waste any time here. We're going to put him up at an S. Semien's numbers were just incredible last year. 265 with the average, a 334 on base, a very good 538 slugging, 45 home runs, a 6.6 wins above replacement. I mean, the offense, amazing, but not just the offense, the defense as well. If we actually take a look here at the advanced numbers, at second base last year, he had 11 defensive runs saved, a 6.3 UZR. I mean, I think there's an argument, a pretty easy argument to say he is the #1 second baseman possibly. Let me know who do you think should be the #1 second baseman, but for me, this is easy, S tier. On to not just the newest second baseman for my Red Sox, but a new second baseman in general, Trevor Story, playing second base for the first time in his career, always a shortstop for the Rockies. So this will be a new story for Trevor Story. I'm not funny. Trevor Story getting a 6-year, $140 million deal in the offseason. He's always just been a very good player. So he did have a down season last year to his standards. He's had better seasons in the past, but that did not affect the contract that he was looking to get. Last year, hit 251, 24 homers, a 329 on base, a 471 slugging. And actually, if we take a look at the splits, in the second half, he did play better. If we take a look here, he had a 111 WRC plus in the second half compared to a 90 in the first half. His on base was better. His slugging was better. His ISO percentage got better. So, and if you look at the BABIPs, the batting average on balls in play, they're still around the same. So he definitely was going through a funk in the first half. A lot of scouts think that he was kind of just going through maybe some injuries last year. But speaking of the injuries, that's also kind of where maybe he will be a better fit at second base because his range is absolutely incredible. If we take a look at the fielding from last year, he still was very good with his defensive runs saved, 9 defensive runs saved. I mean, not really close to what he did in 2019, but still very solid. I would imagine, you know, because of the throws, his velocity on his throws last year were down. But if that is an issue, then at second base, that's not really going to be a problem for him because, hey, it's second base. You're obviously a lot closer to first, but the range is still there with him. You do not have to worry at all about that. I definitely also think his bat is going to fit extremely well at Fenway Park. I talked about this in the beginning of the offseason where he is more of a pull guy. He's going to work really well with that monster. I think a lot of outs last year with the Rockies would have turned into base hits with the Red Sox if he was playing at Fenway. So we'll have to see how that turns out. I definitely think he will put up some better numbers next year. They are projecting better numbers from him, a little better with the slugging, a few more home runs. You know, with these projections, they tend to be a little bit more conservative, but I definitely think his batting average can get up, you know, 270, 280. I think he could have at least 30 home runs, maybe a slugging in the 500s. But I really like this addition for the Red Sox. I think he's a really, really good fit for them. He fills a need. Trevor Story, while yes, this will be his first season at second base, I think he is going to end up being one of the best second basemen this year. I'm going S tier because of the work that he's done at shortstop in the past. Sure, a bit of a downer of a season last year, but I don't think that's going to affect him in the long run. I'm going S tier for Trevor Story. On to Chris Taylor. I still remember the walk-off home run against the Cardinals in the wild card game. What a great moment. But Chris Taylor, really love Chris Taylor. I was kind of hoping my Red Sox were going to bring him into the fold, but I'm okay with Trevor Story. That's okay. But Chris Taylor, the beauty of him is that he can move all over. Yes, he's projected to play second base as of right now. Most likely that's going to be probably the place he ends up playing the most, but he'll get playing time everywhere. Last year, played center, played left, played short, played third, played right, played second. He can play everywhere. But Chris Taylor, not only does he bring you versatility, he brings you a very solid bat as well. Hit 254 last year, a 344 on base, a 438 slugging, 20 homers, 73 RBIs, 92 runs scored. 13 stolen bases as well. I really like Chris Taylor. I think the versatility, it's just such a good thing for the Dodgers. He was getting interest from every single team out there, it seemed, and there's a reason why. He can play all over. I think with Chris Taylor, you know, to kind of just grade him as a second baseman, I think he's solid, but that's not really what he brings. He brings more than that to the table with the versatility. For Chris Taylor, you know, I'm going to go with an A. I think he's really solid. I think there is an argument maybe for a B, but you know what? I just love that versatility. I'm going to go A. Here's an interesting one, Gleyber Torres. Man, this guy was so good in 2018 and 2019. Look at the year he had in 2019. Had 38 home runs that year, 90 RBIs, a 535 slugging, a 125 WRC plus. Man, he was really good, but he has just really dropped off since then. I do think he is going to come back, you know, to what he was doing before a little bit. They are giving him some good projections for next year, a better batting average, way more home runs, a better slugging, a better on base than what he did this past year, a better WRC plus as well. Last year, only hit 259, a 331 on base. Isn't bad. It's not great, but, you know, it's pretty good. But the slugging, 366, that needs to come up. The power needs to come up. The one good sign with Gleyber Torres on Baseball Savant, he did rank in the top 20% with his max exit velocity. So, and the expected batting average was pretty good as well. He doesn't chase a lot, and I think that's a good thing. He still does walk a healthy amount, doesn't strike out a lot. So I think Gleyber Torres is on track to have himself a pretty good season. The Yankees love him, and there were a lot of rumors maybe he was going to get traded this past offseason, but they hung on to him. It's going to be interesting to see where the Yankees end up, who they play more at second base, because you have DJ LeMahieu, and the one good thing about DJ LeMahieu is he can move around, so it's not like you have to lock him in at second. But Gleyber Torres is listed on Fangraphs as the second baseman as of right now. I do think it is a little crazy, being ahead of DJ LeMahieu, considering, the season that Torres had last year. DJ LeMahieu was going through some injuries last year as well. But it was not his best season. Only hit 268, a 349 on base. So they're going to find ways to get both of these guys in the lineup. Where do they end up going? I don't know. But so really this picture of Gleyber Torres is both DJ and Gleyber. So I am interested to see how they do end up working this out. But Gleyber Torres, if I were to just go Gleyber right now, it would be a D, because that season last year was just not very good. I do think there's still a lot of potential with him. If it was DJ LeMahieu, I'd probably go a B, because I do love DJ LeMahieu. But, last year, it wasn't his typical year with him last year. Let me actually pull him up. I know we just kind of looked at a few numbers there. But last year, if we take a look at the numbers, Fangraphs, you are killing me right now. Here we go. So he played 150 games. The on-base was good, but kind of like Gleyber, his slugging was down last year. He had a WRC plus of 100. When looking at 2020, he was so good in 2020. And 2019, he was really good too. So he took a bit of a step back last year as well. I would rank DJ higher than Gleyber right now. With Gleyber, I am just going to keep him at a D. Last but not least, Kolten Wong. I really like Kolten Wong a lot. I have always just been in love with the defense that he brings to the field. But last year with the bat, he did miss some time last year. Only played 116 games out of the 162. But overall, some pretty solid numbers at the plate. Hit 272, 14 homers, a 335 on base, a 447 slugging, a 109 WRC plus. The defense continued to be very good. With Kolten Wong, that's pretty much these numbers that you see here. They're not, I don't think you're really going to get far off from that. With the projections for next year, kind of around the same on base. They actually think he's going to go lower with the slugging. Kolten Wong has always been more known for the glove than the bat. He'll do a good amount with the bat, but nothing, groundbreaking by any means. Kolten Wong, I can see an argument for an A because of his good defense. But then again, he missed some time last year. The offense isn't as good as it could be, but the defense is definitely his saving grace. I will put him at a B for now. Let me know in the comments. Do you think he should be an A? I definitely see an argument for an A, but for me, I'm going to stick at a B. So those are my rankings for second base heading into 2022. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Do you think some guys should be higher, lower? Do you think it's just about right? Let me know, but that's all I have for right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.